I am so excited today to have Alexandra Merz back on the station. I guess I'm going back to my radio days on the channel. I was on the radio for 3 years. I did have a talk show. But I got Alexandra Merz back today. She is a financial analyst and expert and has actually worked years and years ago for Moody's. We were all excited to watch you over the years as you tried to convince both of those agencies to finally give Tesla their due with regard to their ranking and their rating, and accomplished it. And everybody was so excited. And anyway, thank you for being on today with me.
It's a pleasure, Andy. It is. And it's actually funny because it's been not long that we got the second one, right? Moody. So it's just a couple of weeks ago. And I think that one, I really want to, carry the hat for it, because S&P, I do believe Tesla had their role. I explained that to you last time, by missioning them to do that study on California employment creation. So I think there was a little bit of, me putting pressure, but Tesla also navigating it very well. But Moody's this time was good because obviously Tesla didn't want anything to do with Moody's, not pay them, not do anything. I finally got a hand, thanks to Gary, by the way, on the Moody's report. He got that from a third party for free for me. And when I read their results from end of January, which they had hidden behind a paywall, so nobody was ever speaking about it, I analyzed that quite quickly and then reached out to a journalist that I like a lot. I had my list of 3 journalists on, I wanted to give each of them a little bit of something. If the first one wasn't effective, the second one would have a second go. So I contacted the first journalist on a Friday early afternoon and explained to him the biggest issue with that report. One thing that was just completely screwed, and he's a good guy. He got it very quickly, called Moody's on Friday, called Moody's on Sunday, called Moody's on Monday morning, and Monday afternoon they had upgraded. They must have felt the fire under the chair. And I thought, that's good. The second and third journalists, they're going to serve another time. But this time was that. So for that one, I do take credit because, obviously with the help of Gary getting it and with the help of this journalist for doing the job. But I think we did it in a very strategical manner. And that was that.
Yeah.
Now we're there.
All right. So today we're going to talk about the fact that Tesla has their annual meeting, their annual shareholders meeting coming up in May. And you estimated earlier today on Twitter, everybody saw you estimating that their proxy statement would drop today. I think you said specifically at 2:00 Pacific or something. And it was like on the nose.
You see that? You see, that's my thing. I have this crystal ball. You see my crystal ball? And I go, when is it coming out? And sometimes it speaks, no, it doesn't. So this one was actually easy. You just have to be one of those little mice like me who loves to go into these governance rabbit holes. So the first thing was about 2 weeks ago, Tesla issued an SEC document, which is one of those smaller ones. So you don't find them in the big filing notes and they don't email about it, saying, we got another stakeholder request for an inclusion of a topic, but this one was coming in too late. We intend to publish the proxy statement, I think it was March 29th. And this one is too late. So please, SEC, acknowledge that we don't have to take care of him. So I got that one. So I knew it was about to come. And since the 29th of March, so that's a week ago, I was waiting for it. And then I'd also calculated how many days latest they could do it, because you have to commit, I think it's 60 days, no, not 60, 45 days prior to the shareholder meeting that it has to be out, right? And so that's on the 16th of May. We know that since October when they filed the 8K for the third quarter, but I'd hidden it in the back pages, but we knew that. So the last day possible was today, right? So we had that little window. So it wasn't difficult this morning saying it has to be this afternoon, because that was the last day, right? There was nothing magical about that other than being a bit big mouth. But it was, I was anticipating it for a while. The one thing is that a couple of key people up for re-election, so that was important. I wanted to know whether they're going to give and work on a new compensation package for Elon. So there were a couple of key questions I wanted to answers to. So I was really waiting for that. How stupid can you be in life? Waiting for a 73-page agenda to a shareholder meeting and then going through it. But that's just what I get a kick out. And so here it was today. And so since for the last 2 hours, I've been looking at it, and now you're the first person I talked to about it.
Yeah, so I saw this all happening on Twitter and quickly sent you an email because for me, the big news, and I think for a lot of people, the big news was that JB Straubel has been nominated to fill the vacancy on the board. And that's like reunion time. And like,
I love it.
For me, it's like filling out the team. It's like completing the matrix. I mean, it's like
I love it, and I love it for so many reasons. I love it because I did a video probably now 5 months ago with I think it was with Farzad, probably with Farzad and Gary and Ross. And in that video, I said, you'll see, they'll bring JB Straubel back and he will be on the board. And Ross was treating me with all the names and saying, never in his life, that's not going to happen. I'm just dreaming. JB is doing his capital raise for Redwood. Last thing he would want is getting on the board. And I was like, I just see it coming. And there we are. So believe me, I sent a message to Gary. See, I love that one.
Well, so JB Straubel, I mean, I can see where Gary or Ross or anybody else might think he's very busy. I mean, he is building something. He has Redwood Materials. For those of you who don't know, JB Straubel was with Tesla for 15 years, I think.
Yeah, he was there right from the beginning with Elon.
Right.
There are lots of cute old videos where they're together, where they're together sitting in the Roadster, or where they're together sitting in the first Model S. I mean, absolutely beautiful stuff. And so from 2004 to 2019, and then he left to set up Redwood, and I think he left in very good terms. And why did I always, think that will be the case? And with me, I always try to follow breadcrumbs. I'm probably not the brightest, but one thing I am is I'm always I'm always sort of remembering stuff. And remember when they opened when they had the semi event, JB was there, and there were pictures with him and Elon, and I was like, oh, they look so good, reunited and all that. And so I do believe he was really the missing piece. And I actually wrote a Substack on it in January. I wrote a Substack on all the current board members. That was the moment when Ross thought that's when I had you on last. Yeah, exactly. And my conclusion was, if really they need a new board member, the only person that I see on the horizon that would be qualified would be JB Straubel, and there we are.
I believe, if I remember a breadcrumb, it was that Elon Musk said that, but for Elon, there wouldn't be a Tesla, and also, but for JB Straubel, there wouldn't be a Tesla today.
Yeah, and I think they make a great team. I think JB is very grounded, obviously has extreme sound industry knowledge, doesn't speak a lot, which I think is great, pairing it with Elon. There's no shadowing or whatever. I feel this is a match made in heaven and was supposed to happen. I mean, we can now start speculating. Will Tesla purchase Redwood, right? Will there be, because I mean, this could be the beginning of much more, or it could just stay at this position. Being a board position, I read through the whole proxy today, depending on which committee you are sitting, you have one meeting per month or one meeting every 2 months. So it's not as if you have a 24-hour job now at Tesla, of course not. So typically when a new board member is elected, he initially is only in one of the committees. So this is something JB can do on top of his Redwood activity. And they pointed it out. There is a section at the end, I think page 64, it was, about related party transactions, where it lists that Elon obviously has a high stake in SpaceX. Elon has a huge stake in Twitter. And then they also discuss the relationship with Redwood Material, because Tesla is a client of Redwood, but it is in such small proportions that at the moment there is obviously no conflict of interest or anything to it. So it could just stay like that, or my fantasy can carry me to Wonderland, where JB comes back to Tesla for good, right? And that's just me fantasizing.
So yeah, and conflict of interest. I mean, there really isn't anybody besides Redwood that is in this recycling business yet, and certainly not at that scale. So I don't see the conflict of interest at all at this point. Now, 5 years from now, it could be a serious conflict. Yeah.
Well, the conflict of interest could come from him having insider knowledge on Tesla and him serving Tesla's competitor in Redwood, right? That's probably where the tension could come from. But I trust him to manage this exactly how it should be. I don't think I, of course, would be the one who would say no to any merger because I keep on suggesting. Oh, I know. You want to
spin everything off.
Exactly, cut them off. Give me shares of all of them, right?
That's right. So I'm not looking for any more accumulation. All right. So this is extremely exciting. I'm, and then they're losing a board member. Do you see a big loss? I don't want you to.
Yes, I'll try to stay measured. So Hero, which is leaving. He was in charge of ESG for the last 3 years. So he joined the board in 2020. He's leaving now this year, 2023, and it's his place that's replaced with JB. So it's not a new addition. We have a new addition from last year, which is Joe Gebbia, but this is a replacement. Now, Hero is an interesting case. This person has really the perfect credentials and academics and relations to could have been perfect for getting Tesla into the right ESG path, right? Into the, I hate this word, but into the establishment of ESG, right? Now, there are obviously a couple of things.
For some of our listeners, ESG is equity,
environment, social, and governance.
Yeah, and it's something that Elon hates.
No. I think we have to make a real distinction. I don't think at all that Elon hates ESG. I think he hates where ESG has become politicized and now actually a danger to the financial world. So there is the problem with ESG is a much bigger one, and I rather come back one day talk about it because it's hours of talking about ESG. ESG is a cancer, in my view, a cancer to today's society because they are trying to institutionalize something that looks cute, that looks greenwash, that looks whatever, social warriors and all that, for much deeper roots and goals and trying to put people into boxes and companies into boxes and trying to steer it from larger committees. So the whole ESG thing, I think we shouldn't go there today because it's too much. But Hero was supposed to be the one that bridged what I think is a perfect impact report. By the way, that's another news that we'll know in about 3 weeks. We will have a new impact report that's also in the proxy statement. So the 2021-22 impact report was done with Hero's input, and somehow nothing came out of it, right? So I don't know whether it's Hero leaving or whether the board just thought this was not the right person at the right place, which may not be Hero's problem, but just ESG is a very tough problem. And Elon knows where he wants it, and the rest of the world is trying to maneuver in exactly the other direction. So I think the replacement is a good one. Doesn't give us any ESG points, that's for sure, because JB, I don't think is playing that corporate game either. But it's a clear statement that Tesla does not want to play this corporate ESG game anymore. That's for sure, because Hero would have been the right player for that. And so that's that. I was a bit surprised, but I have to look up. I don't really remember that we're not voting on Joe Gebbia. Remember, Joe Gebbia is the Airbnb founder that was last year nominated to join the board. So he will be this year in some of the committees. There is no formal vote for him. While there is a formal vote to renew Robin Denholm, the chair, she remains chair. I was speculating at one moment whether Elon would come back as chair or not, but that's not happening. So Robin remains the chair and has to be renewed. Elon, there's a vote on Elon, whether he continues to be a board member. And there is then the election of JB Straubel. There's no election of Joe Gebbia because he just has his first nomination and sails through for the first term.
Got it. Okay. All right. So there's some of the things that you found in the proxy statement. I'm really interested. Now that gives us something else to wait for. It will be that statement coming out of the environmental impact here in 3 weeks, you said. So
yes. Before the end of April, they say. Another thing that also got confirmed, and I think I should share with you, is Tom Zhu. has now been officially made SVP, Senior Vice President for Automotive. And they said this only happened beginning of April. We're April the 6th, so it must have happened in the last 5 days. And so that's new in the proxy statement as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to like him. I mean, it's like you don't hear anything negative, and you hear people going out of their way to say very nice things about him.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Seems like a great one. So, anything else on the proxy statement that
there were a couple of other things they're talking. So the one thing is there is no compensation package for Elon, and I was speculating for a while that after Investor Day, I felt that they weren't precise enough with goals for Master Plan 3 to hang a compensation package for Elon on it. I just, I love the vision and everything, but, you remember the compensation package of 2018, it was like this number. And when we hit that number, we have to hit this number. The whole Master Plan 3 was too vague, but then I had hoped that they would come by now to something more concrete with precise numbers and hang a new compensation package for Elon on it. When I saw Master Plan 3 published yesterday, it went straight over my head. I said, I think my word, what this looks like a doctor thesis in energy business, right? Which fair enough confirms that Tesla is not a car company anymore, that's for sure. Oh. But I have, very little physics and chemical knowledge to understand what's happening here. So I have to slowly break it down and hope I get there and listen to lots of wise people explaining it to me. But anyway, one thing I did realize that the Master Plan 3, how it was published yesterday, was again not something with Elon and his vision and his steps, right? This was now for the world to understand, for the governments to understand, for the world to implement. So yesterday evening was the first time where I said, you know what, I don't think they will hang a compensation package for Elon on Master Plan 3. It's just now two different things, right? It's Tesla having a vision for the world, and it's not about that number of cars or this market capitalization anymore. So all good. We may see a compensation plan in a couple of weeks or months or next year for the next proxy statement, maybe based on energy, maybe based on full self-driving, what do we know? But or on the robots. But it's there's no compensation package this year.
Okay, I want it to be based on the robots.
There you go. Maybe you're right.
I want it to be based on building and shipping and selling or leasing 1 million robots in 2024.
There you go.
Just give him as much money as he asks for. Perfect. If he accomplishes that result.
Perfect.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, yeah. So eventually they have to give him a compensation plan. I mean, isn't there federal legislation with regard to even somebody with stock, and that he has to get paid a reasonable amount of money, I believe is the way.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of chapters where around page 60 in the proxy statement, right on that. Oh. Because so while he was still in California, most of the time, he took the 32,000 minimum wage, right? California obliged. So he took those, and then he at one moment decided, okay, I'm taking them, I'm taxed on them, but I'm not taking them. So he wasn't paid out anymore, but he had, at least on paper, he still had them. And then I think in 2019, they ended that shenanigan as well and just said, that's it. So now that he's mainly in Texas, I mean, not anymore, maybe with Twitter, I don't know. But anyway, he's not having any salary. And this proxy statement states over and over and over again. It states actually the two salaries for Zach and Drew, which are $300,000 fixed for each. And then they have their stock allocations, depending on, the results of Tesla. Mm-hmm. But Elon doesn't have a fixed salary. He now has attained all the 12 steps of the 2018 compensation package. They confirm it in this proxy statement. And he has now 5 years to vest those options, right? And I mean, tax-wise, lots of smart people explain to me he should take them as late as possible. I mean, I'm no expert in option tax law, so I just take that for granted. So I don't expect anything of that is coming. And so while he doesn't exercise them, there is no tax liability.
I see.
Because there were people speculating, oh my gosh, will he have tax liability this year? No, when he's not exercising them, there's no tax liability. So I think the whole compensation package from Elon, we're just going to, for a year, not have to worry about, and probably see it back again in 2024. And by then, probably based on other metrics than the ones we currently have.
Got it. So do you see, is there anything else that would be coming up at the stockholders meeting that you think would be, I mean, other than the fact there could be announcements? I mean, we've got the earnings report between now and then, so there's all kinds of possible announcements between now and then. But
let me just check my notes, because there were 2 or 3 things I had noted myself. I just want to make sure I tell you all about it. So we have only one official stakeholder proposal. Remember last year we had 8 of them from all good thinking people of the world, helping all poor people of the world. So this time, by the fact of advancing the shareholder meeting so much, right? Remember 2 years ago it was in October, last year it was in August, now it's in May. People were surprised, because then you have to respect 120 days prior to bring in your proposals, and there's some other rules. So actually proposals should have been brought in by December 22nd. And the only one that was awake by then is a lady from Iceland, from Reykjavik. And her proposal is she wants to have a key man risk report published, where the key men in Tesla are identified, and who is their successor, who is their replacement if ever they are ill or whatever. So Tesla is advising to vote against this proposal, and explains in half a page what risk it brings with it when all this is in the public domain and whatever. And then Tesla has received, I spoke to that about in the earlier, another request which may be brought forward at the meeting. You know, you can in annual shareholder meetings, I mean, we all now vote on the internet and whatever, but at the actual shareholder meeting, people can be there and bring up proposals. So the one that didn't have to be included in the proxy, but may still be brought forward at the annual shareholder meeting itself, is about child labor. So that's somebody being considerably worried about child labor. But other than that, it's the election of the 3 directors, Elon, Robin, and JB. It is us voting to give the board, again, a 3-year term of deciding how to remunerate all the executives. You know, we're giving them sort of a blank check for a 3-year period. Then it is about how executive compensation is structured at Tesla, which means little fix and more options and stock. And I think that, and the last one was that PricewaterhouseCoopers remains the accounting firm. Mm-hmm. So very standard. I don't expect any, no shareholder from outside that made it. I don't think that we can get there. There was a little new paragraph that pledging shares for insiders, meaning executive and board members, could go before to 25%. They now want to limit it to 15%. I don't think this is anything that anybody, worries about or whatever. So I think that's easy. They gave us information that the 5th impact report will be published before end of April. Right. So that one. And that Tom Zhu is going to be the SVP for automotive. And that Joe Gebbia, the board member who joined last year, is going to join the audit committee. There are 4 committees at each board. Elon and Kimball are not allowed to be on committees because they're brothers and considered, insiders. So the others are independent directors, and Joe has now been attributed to 1. Some board members have sitting in all 4 of these committees, but usually it's 2 or 3, and Joe, it's now for the first year only 1.
All right. So we've talked about the proxy statement. We've talked about the board meeting. We've talked about JB Straubel. I'm going to throw you one from left field, and I'm not even 100% sure whether this is a place that you spend any time, but it's probably the number one thing on my mind after robots right now. What do you think? Have you spent any time thinking about, and do you have an opinion on what the automotive margins will be in the upcoming earnings report, and what you think the overall operating margins will be? Yeah, those are the 2 that I think are game changers.
I hope, let's start with the operating margin. I hope the operating margin remains between 15 and 17%. I think that would be a relief to me. And I still have, just for full disclosure, short-term options that expire after the financial results on, I think, April 23rd, if I remember right. And so or 21st anyway, so, but it's afterwards. So, and I keep those because that's my, last hope for those. Not that I'm losing a lot of money of them, not that I have a lot of money on them, but still. So between 15 and 17, and I do hope the automotive margin is going to be between 20 and 22. That's my hope. Mm-hmm. And I give you a range because I'm not able to firm it down to the last little bit. But as you see, that would actually decrease the span between the two. Mm-hmm. So I do believe they're already in the cost-saving phase, and the lower lithium and other raw material prices starts filtering through. But it's going to be a tough quarter, and I still think next quarter is still going to be quite tough as well, just because the economy is difficult. The reduction of cost takes time to trigger through and be there. And I had hoped for more deliveries. We have about 7,500 cars in transit on the S and X's. It was good results. I'm not saying it wasn't good, but in order to really reduce or at least increase the operating margins, it would have been good to have another 10,000-15,000 cars sold, right? Right. Especially of the higher margins.
Yes. Yeah. So I, of course, I'm the optimist.
Oh, you are. I saw your interview with Herbert on Monday. I was like, oh my God.
Okay, so I'm coming in at I think it'll still be 23% or higher on automotive, and I think 17 is about right for the overall operating. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Of
course, and we'll be there, right? I'm not gonna miss it for anything.
There you go. Well, okay, Alexandra, as always, great to have you on. You are always a font of wisdom in places that most people don't want to even bother to go. I mean, like you said, who wants to read through a proxy statement? Yeah. Only Alexandra thinks, oh boy, I get to read a proxy statement. So we're glad to have you, and we're glad to have you as a member of the overall Elon Musk and Tesla community, and providing all these insights all the time. So thanks for being on board. And for all of you out there, listen, if this is content that you liked, please let me know that you liked it. Please share. Please tell other people about this particular video, because nobody else is going to do this video, just Alexandra and me. And so, and follow Alexandra on Twitter for sure. If you aren't already doing that, I'll put her information down below. And as usual, it's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.